mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, dip my body
Hello,
in
hello,
glitter.
hello.
Hello.
You are now tuned in to the A Little Bit of Love podcast. This week I've got a special guest. We've got Megan.
Hello. Thank
How
you
are
for
you
having
today?
me. I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Megan, you are like the sweetest soul. You're so
Thank
nice.
you.
And
I
guys,
appreciate
if
that.
you're watching on YouTube, take a look at her background. We've got the Twilight book. She's got like the shrine going on here.
Yes, I set up my shrine just for today. I also have you can't really see them, but my Twilight scented candles.
I was just talking about how I have a Twilight candle too with Edward covering his nose.
I have that picture framed in my bathroom, which is right in here.
Yes. Oh my God. I need to get a bathroom one. I don't know how my boyfriend would feel about it, but we also have our own separate bathrooms. So like maybe he
But
won't
like,
care.
it's the vibe.
Right.
I just told my husband, I was like, I'm putting this in the bathroom, and he's like, okay. Supportive spouse.
I was gonna say, we love a supportive spouse.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining me this week. I'm so
Thank
excited to
you.
have you because we have, if you guys don't know, if you're not following Megan on TikTok, what are you doing? Okay. TikTok, she's on YouTube, she's on Instagram. I'll make sure that I leak everything in the bio, in the description because you make Twilight content and we were offline. You were telling me that you've been to Forks 3 times.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so iconic. So when did you become a Twihard? Let's start there.
Yeah, it's actually been a long journey. And I also think that I was quite late to getting to it, which I think that would
Same.
probably surprise people. Because I think like I became obsessed with Twilight back in 2019. So it's only been about 5 years that I've been
Oh, okay,
like
even
actively
later.
participating in the community. So I like missed the original hype, but I've been here for the Renaissance, which has been
Right.
wonderful. So yeah, kind of my introduction to Twilight. When I was growing up, I was very much Harry Potter and Hunger Games girly. And in middle and high school, I think as many young people can relate to is I was so self-conscious and scared of what people would think of me. And I think growing up, like, especially Twilight was something that was frowned upon for liking when we were that age kind of thing. So when Twilight was at its peak, I was in high school. I think Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2 came out when I was in high school, the
Same.
movies. And I remember I watched the first movie and I loved it. And then I got the book from the library and stuff. And then I just was so self conscious of the idea of other people thinking it was like lame to like Twilight that I
Right.
just never read or watched the other ones. And also, this is so silly. My parents, now, if I bring this up, they would just be like, why? But I used to put things on hold at the library, and then my dad would pick them up on his way home from work. So I was so embarrassed to ask my dad to pick up the Twilight book from me at the library that, like, when I didn't finish it, had to return it to the library, and I was too embarrassed to ask him to get it for me again. So I just didn't continue the series. And and then now I'm kicking myself because I'm like, I missed out on being part of such an awesome fandom for so many years because of being embarrassed. But I'm also working in therapy of having grace and understanding for my younger self. And also, I've moved past that. Now I'm like, look at me. I love Twilight on the internet for people to judge. So, and that's fine. And I don't care. So,
I love that. No, people need to talk about more of the pipeline between us therapy girlies and then us doing the healing work because I'm with
yes.
you with that as well. Like I was really self-conscious. I think it all comes from like the fear of being perceived. I
Yes.
actually want no one to acknowledge my existence, but at the same time, don't forget about me. It's such a confusing like feeling.
100%.
And
Yes.
then once you start doing the work, then like us going into like content creation is such a crazy trope because then you're like,
Yes.
me 5 years ago or 10 years ago would have never imagined that I'd be sharing my thoughts and opinions or likes or interests on the internet. And then
Totally.
here we are full blown being like, look at this special interest I have. And
Yeah,
it's
look at
like,
my special interest.
right.
Which I
Like, to
love that for us.
right. Like, but to this
So,
day, I feel like it still surprises me that I'm like, wait, like, I really have put myself out there. But it's like, thanks to therapy, I'm feeling more
yes,
confident.
yes. I was very hyper fixated on the Hunger Games because I got into the books when they first were like popular and then got to watch the
Mm.
movies as they came out. So that was
Oh, those
kind
are
of
prime
what
time. I
that
went
was
through an era
prime
as
time.
well.
Woo. So I think I was also so tunnel visioned on Hunger Games that I didn't quite have the proximity to fully embrace Twilight at that time in my life. Um, but I do have a Facebook memory that pops up every year of me putting on my Facebook status being like, I finally watched the first Twilight movie and it was awesome. So there was a tidbit that it was coming. Um, so yeah, I just like I was aware of it as like a cultural thing, but I just didn't embrace it. So combination of being very self-conscious and then also just having other interests at that time. And then all these years went by, and it's funny, there was a YouTube video, it was like a skit or something that popped up that they referenced Twilight in it, and I showed it to one of my good friends because I thought it was funny. And we started chit-chatting about Twilight casually, and she was like, yeah, I loved the books growing up. And she's like, the books are actually like way better than the movies. Like the movies are fun, but like the books are so good. And then I was like, I'm I'm gonna just get the first book and read it, kind of thing. And then it was like a switch went off in my brain of just like I was like, this is it. This is my thing now. So I went to the bookstore, bought the whole book set, and so I finished all of the books in 2019, and then started embracing like the online community. And I think there was definitely a part of me that was sad that I had really like I regretted that I'd missed out on the peak of seeing like the books, celebrating the books coming out and going to the movie premieres and like all of the online discourse and all of that. So I kind of got back into it, and I was, or not got back into it, I was looking at all the stuff that had been previously posted, and then
Right.
I started having ideas that I wasn't seeing other people posting. So then I started posting on TikTok, and then it was like 6 or 7 months later that Midnight Sun was announced. So, and then that really, the combination of world shutting down, Midnight Sun coming out, and Twilight coming to Netflix, it just like launched the Renaissance. So then it felt very like healing for my young self to get to like the fandom really like popped off again and getting to really experience it and getting to be creative and make content and stuff surrounding it and meeting so many cool people like you through this online community. And yeah, I've just had the absolute best time being part of the Twilight community, and I'm so glad everyone has embraced me, even though I was so late coming aboard. Um, and yeah, so I wish that I'd grown up with it, but then I also am so grateful that the last 5 years I've really got to experience it, and I feel like a lot of people are coming back to the Twilight community, so it's been so cool. And actually, when I was in Forks this past March, I'm talking to the people who work at the Welcome Center, the visitor
Yeah.
center. Yeah. In Forks, they were saying, back when Twilight was at its very peak, they had 60,000 people visiting Forks, which is insane because their town has less than 4,000 people that live there.
Right.
And then it trickled down as time went on. And in the last few years, it's back up to, like, visitor wise, it's back up to what it was when it was at its peak. So it's like the fandom's really like coming back.
I love that. And that's why I always appreciate, content creators like you and, the community in general, because it's like we have to have like some other type of entertainment. The series is done as far as we know. We don't have the TV show. So it's like people like you are keeping the dream alive, and it's like making the jokes, dressing up, getting like the physical copy of like Bella's homework and just
Yes.
the little details and things like that. I just love so much. And like, if you guys, take the time to check out Megan's social media, like she's on the scene, okay? Like you are literally on the scene in Forks, like doing the work, giving us like almost cosplay type of energy. And it's like, this is what we need because the movies are
Aw.
done, so we have nothing else.
I know it is like it's kind of we have to create our own content because there isn't official content coming out. And yeah, there's so many amazing cosplayers and content creators and small businesses that have just fully embraced uh
Yes.
fully embraced it, and I love it. I probably
All
spend
my
way too much
Etsy
time on the internet,
girlies.
but yeah, all the Etsy
Right.
girls.
Yes, like everybody that contributes anything to Twilight esque. Like there's this one Etsy person that I follow on Instagram, and it's like she's always coming out with like new drops, and it's like you would think that you would run out of new merch to come out with,
No,
but it's like every month she's
there's so
got a
much
new
content.
Edward blanket, like she's got a new
Yes, yes,
pin, like what? I love it. And oh my
yes.
gosh. And we were offline. We were talking about how you've been to like the Forks festival.
Hmm.
So can we go into that just, a quick overview just in case like any of the girlies didn't even know that this was a thing?
Yes, because I only heard about the festival through TikTok a few years
Yeah.
ago. So I went to the festival. It's called the Forever. I always get the name mixed up. It's Forever Twilight in Forks Festival. So they call it FTF for short. So I usually just call it FTF because I've always messed up the name. Um, but the Forever Twilight in Forks Festival happens annually in September. It's usually the weekend of Bella's birthday in the books.
Yes.
And it's been happening. It started as Stephanie Meyer's Day, and then they eventually it turned into Forever Twilight and Forks. It's been going on, I want to say, for approximately 10 years or so. Might be a little bit longer. Um, and yeah, it's just people come from all over the world, all over in the US, Canada. I'm Canadian. And they come together, and it's like a 5 day festival where they have it every year. It's themed surrounding a movie. So the first year that I went, it was Breaking Dawn Part 2. That was in 2022. 2023 was Twilight. This year, which I won't be going, which is very sad, but this year's New Moon. And all of the content and everything surrounds that movie. It's like themed to that movie. But
Nice.
there's activities. There's the official, they're called the Olympic Coven. They're the official Twilight. I think they like to say performers rather than cosplay because they really like embodied the character. It's kind of
Yes.
like Disneyland for Twilight fans. So
Right.
the Olympic Coven, they the different events throughout the week, they go there and they're in screen accurate costumes, hair, makeup, everything. It's like you can go up to them and talk to them like they are the real characters, and it's so cool. And they all of the people who are involved in that are just so kind and lovely, and they're so supportive of other people who are wanting to get into cosplay and stuff. So that's really cool. So that's one element of it. Um, Whatever movie it is that year, they do like a screening of it. So getting to watch the original Twilight with
I was
hundreds
gonna
of people who
say
are
because
like
you didn't
super
see it in the
into it.
movies, but
Yeah,
you
it
get to see it at the festival. So
yes.
that's probably so much fun.
And everyone's like, woo!
Yeah, because I've only since I got in the fandom when Breaking Dawn Part One came out.
Okay.
So I got to see it in the movies, Breaking Dawn Part One and Two, like when it debuted. But I didn't have the type of audience that I would love to
Yes.
have the way I see on TikTok. But
Mhm.
recently, a few months ago, my local movie theater was having Flashback Cinema Day, and they started playing each movie like every month.
That's
So
so fun.
recently me and my sister went to go see Breaking Dawn I'm sorry, Twilight and then New Moon. I can't remember if we saw Eclipse, but that time around was a lot more fun because like the girlies
Yes.
were there, we were all laughing. Like there is nothing more unifying of the human experience than watching a Twilight movie with the
Movie together.
masses.
And like everyone like yelling out the quotes and stuff, and it just, yeah, it's such a fun experience. So yeah, they have that. They have special guests from the movies, or like actors from the movies. So last year was Ashley Greene, Alice, and Rochelle. I always pronounce her last name incorrectly, so I'm gonna not butcher it, but Rochelle, who plays Victoria in the first movie.
Yes.
And then also the actor who plays Peter in Breaking Dawn Part 2. So Peter's one of
Oh,
the
yes.
vampire
Hmm.
thing, and the actor is Eric Odom, and he's gone to every single festival every year, and he's the kindest person you will ever meet.
Because
And
justice for Peter. We deserve to know
yes,
more about
we needed
them.
more Peter content.
Dude, I
So
agree.
he is like the unofficial. I think they say he's like the unofficial like mascot almost, because he's always there, and he doesn't just go to the like panels and stuff. He goes like to all the different events in the festival. Like he's there. He's hyping up the girlies, um, and yeah, they do a market. So a lot of those Etsy or other small businesses we'll do like a pop-up shop and stuff. So that's where I've bought majority of my merchandise, has been at the festival at those small businesses, which is really cool. And then also it's like they'll do a day where you can go visit Forks High School and like walk around in the school, and they have like the biology classroom, and then Bella and Edward are in the biology classroom, and
Oh,
they
wait, that's
so
so
they
cool.
have, yeah, you like walk in and they're there with like the microscope and stuff, and it's so fun. And yeah, they do different panels, different activities, and then they have parties in the evening, like themed parties. So this year, because it was Twilight, they did the Friday night is always like a more casual party, and that one was themed It's Time Vampire Baseball. So that one, so we all dressed up in like baseball Cullen gear, and then they do like a gala on the Saturday, so that's more like formal. People wear like long dresses and like get all dressed up and stuff. And then that one was themed of the Monte Carlo prom from Twilight, and they
Yes.
had like the Monte Carlo banner from the movie and everything. Like all the decor and everything is so accurate. Like they do not miss on the details. It's so fun. And then the actors who were portraying Bella and Edward, they came in and danced to Flightless Bird, and she had the like boot cast, and
This is taking me
like
out.
he
This sounds like
yeah,
a
and then
dream.
he like lifted her onto his feet. It was like dancing around, and everyone was screaming.
I'm shaking in my boots right
It
now. I'm
was so
picturing
good.
it.
And then all of the other Cullens came in and started dancing. So there was like Emmett and Rosalie and Alice and Jasper, and they're all in like the book accurate outfits that they wore to prom and stuff. And it was chef's kiss. It was so so
Oh my
good.
God.
And then of course I
Guys,
came home and was trying to explain it to my friends and family who aren't part of the Twilight fandom, and
right.
they're like, we love that for you. We don't know what you're talking about.
Yay. See,
Like,
that's why I was
yay.
like, I
Yeah.
needed to have like someone like you on the pod so that we
Yeah.
could really talk about this, because I swear when you talk to other people, they're just like, well,
They're like,
that's nice, but
okay, yeah.
anyway.
And it's like, no, I need someone to recognize all of the decor and all the
Oh
things.
my
So, yeah, I would
God.
highly recommend going to the festival. It's so fun. There is paid events, but there's also free events. So, like, you don't have to have a ticket to go. You can go attend the free things. But it's just so fun, and I always leave the festival just feeling so like my heart is full, because all the people, we were talking about this before offline, but like everyone there, it's such a broad range of like ages, genders, sexualities, races. Like it's everybody is there, and it's such like, I think I had a narrow-minded view before I went that it was just going to be like women in their like 20s and 30s, or like it would be maybe 90%, but it's like no, it's people in their like teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and everyone is just like so friendly. I chatted with like 50 different people. So, and there's also a Facebook group online. So people will post in there being like, hey, it's my first year going. I don't know anyone. I'm going alone. And like people will comment and stuff so that they can meet up with people. So even if you don't have someone to go with, like the community just fully embraces everyone, and everyone's just like so friendly and welcoming and stuff. So it's just the best time. I am very upset that I can't go this year, but I'm hoping 2025, crossing my fingers.
Right, because I will be looking forward to that content if you can make it. That's what I liked about when I went to Epic Cons. If you guys haven't watched my vlog on my YouTube channel, be sure to check that out. Because that's when I went to meet the Cullen sisters, and they had like a Facebook group on there too, where they were like, "Okay, this is my first time," yada yada. Then people were sharing their photos, cheering each other on and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, that sense of community is just always so nice. So if you guys haven't gone to that festival and you're a Twilight girly listening right now, girly gays days, whatever, make sure you check that out because I definitely want to go one year. It sounds so much
It's so good.
fun.
Also, then you can go to the Twilight collection, which is free.
Yes.
They do take donations to keep it going because it's mostly volunteer run. Um, and you can meet Chuck Esme. So
Yes, I saw your video
she's
with
so
with her
scary.
when you said I'm gonna put a picture of her in there.
Yeah. And like
Picture
her
of her in the
face
video.
is like melting off. And when you go in, the amazing tour guides who volunteer or spend their time bringing people through, they always say they're like, be kind to Chuck Esme, so she is kind to us.
Wait, we love the supportive relationship. We respect her. She
She is
respects
scary.
us. No, I was terrified. I was like, we love her though.
She's scarier in person too. Like she could definitely come alive in the night and like haunt Forks.
No. Oh my God. Well, I love that. And
Yes.
if you guys didn't know, today we are talking about Breaking Dawn
Dawn
Part
Part
1. This movie, like I said, was the first movie that I watched in the Twilight saga, period. So strange of me to just jump straight into that one, but I was young. I didn't know what was going on. And
So
this
did
movie,
you not see the other
I
the
hadn't
other
seen nothing. I hadn't
So
read
you
the
went in with
books.
no information. Oh
I don't
no.
know why. I like literally I could have swore I went with my mom. I should have asked her, but I swear it was like me and my mom and we went, and I was talking about this on one of the recent episodes. Like I had no clue what was going on. I didn't know that she was going to turn into a vampire. I didn't know that she
Oh
was going to give
no.
birth. So when you go in there with absolutely no context at all
That's so
and
funny.
you're a kid, I was terrified and curious at the same time, and that's what started it all for me. So Breaking
That's
Dawn Part
so
1 is very
funny.
special in my life for that
Yes.
reason, because I was like, she turns into a vampire? Okay, then what? And then that like caused my curiosity. So I
Hmm.
had to go back, watch all the movies from the beginning, like read all the books. And so, yeah, it's a special moment.
That's so cool. That is so funny. Sorry, I totally misunderstood when you said that Breaking Dawn was the first one you saw in theaters. I thought that you were just like late to it, that it was like, oh, you watched the other ones at home and then that was the first one you saw in the theaters. I didn't realize you meant that was the first one that you saw. That's so funny.
It's literally a chaotic beginning, but I honestly wouldn't have had it any other way.
I love that young Kristen was like, yes, I'm gonna watch the fourth movie in this series and not research anything. I've heard a lot of people's introductions to Twilight, and I've never heard that one before.
Yes, I truly feel like I have a unique start.
Yes,
Like, I don't know, I've never heard of anybody who just like straight went
straight
in
into
with
part
that
one.
one. Yes, and it would have helped if I would have read this because it's the breakdown the Wikipedia version. It says at last Bella and Edward are getting married. When Jacob finds out that Bella wants to spend her honeymoon as a human, he is horrified. For Edward's passion could accidentally kill her. Bella does indeed survive her honeymoon, but a new complication arises when she discovers that she's pregnant and the child is growing at an alarming rate. The pregnancy sets the wolves against Bella and Edward, but Jacob vows to protect his friend. Maybe I should have read that. Maybe I should have been like, what's going
You go into it being like, who are Bella and Edward? Jacob
Literally.
appears, you're like, who is this? And he's like, you're gonna die.
Dude, I did not know why
You're like,
Jacob
huh?
was so pressed. I was like, why is he so mad? Like, girl, the confusion was so
That's
freaking
so
real.
iconic.
I didn't know what was going on. Not 1 second of the movie, but somehow I was still eating it up. I was like, wait,
You're like, I have no idea what's going on, and I'm loving it.
literally. And before we jump into talking about
Yes.
like the ups and downs and our favorites and not so favorites of the Breaking Dawn Part 1, one question I have to ask you, are you Team Edward or are you Team Jacob?
Edward.
Edward, or like I like to
those who
call him
aren't-
Edweenie.
Yes, Edweenie. The one for those not watching, I'm wearing an Edward shirt.
Yes.
Or an Edward and Bella shirt.
This is so great. My last episode was with the Team Jacob girly. We love you guys.
Oh, yes.
Kisses. But I've got my Team Edward girl with me this week. Oh, yes. Like, we know at the end of the day, yes, Team Jacob seems more ideal, but we love Edward through and through. Sorry, not sorry.
Yes,
Unapologetically.
I have friends that are Team Jacob, and I do understand where they are coming from, but Edward is my person. So I mean,
Right.
can also recognize both of them, both Bella, Edward, and Jacob would all really benefit from therapy.
Right. For sure.
But I still love Edward. But yes.
Oh my God. And I think that that's like really what it is. Like, when you are Team Edward, it's kind of really hard to explain why.
Yeah. Like, he's got a lot of toxic stuff going on.
Right. But it's like, I'm here. Shoot.
Here I am.
Seriously. So to start us off, I think I'm just going to go off with my first note that I have, which is Edward telling Bella about the humans that he killed is so dramatic. At the beginning of the movie.
I like that he's like, hello, I missed telling you this tidbit, so I'm going to do it the night before our wedding. Here you go.
Like, for those who haven't watched the film, Edward and Bella are supposed to get married. Before we see them get married, Edward comes in her room, as he usually does. He's done it before, non-consensually.
Yeah.
Right. And he tells her, wait, before we get married, I must tell you a secret. I've killed people. Yes, those people were bad people and they deserve to die because half of them are criminals and rapists. But I'm a monster. You sure you want to get married? You sure you want to be a vampire? And Bella's unbothered.
She's like, okay. But honestly, like my toxic trait is that if anything that happened in Twilight happened in real life, I'd be like, girl, what are you doing? What? And then when it happens in Twilight, I'm like, that's fine. Like Edward coming into her bedroom in like the first movies and stuff, I'm like, I know it's wrong, but also I'm like, that's fine.
Right. No, because we were talking about this offline. Like,
Yeah, that's
me
my
and you
red
love
flag.
to be Delulu about
I'm
it.
very
Like,
Delulu about
in no
Twilight.
way, shape, or form are we saying anything that Edward, that he does traditionally wrong is okay.
No,
But
not
the
in real
Delulu
life.
side of us,
Fiction
right,
only.
right. Fiction only, I live. Because especially because we have like a moment where we see the flashback scene where Edward is like in the movie theater, and he's like saving lives while also taking lives. So it's like he's protecting those women that were gonna eventually be raped and
like,
murdered
you should
anyway.
just keep doing it.
Literally.
He's
I mean,
like,
he quite literally
I
did it for
didn't want
Bella
to-
in the first movie too. Bella was
Yeah.
almost a victim. And
Yeah.
he swooped in and was like, well, let me save
he's
her.
So I keep doing facial expressions and not explaining what I'm doing because it's a podcast. I just did
people
an
didn't see
impression
that-
of Edward's face when he gets out of the car.
His menacing, very scary, threatening glare.
Also, though, he does like in the first Twilight when he tells, or after Bella's like, you're a vampire and stuff, I think he does say like, I've killed people before, and that's when she's like, that's fine.
Right.
So I think that he's like bringing it up again as a like, are you sure kind of thing the night before. So I don't think it's like that wasn't new information to her, but I
Right.
think it was him being like, I want to make sure you have all the information and all of the details because before he kind of just glossed over it. But so I think this was like going into detail. And also, my fun fact is that because I live about an hour from where the movies were filmed, except for the first one, that the movie theater or like the old timey theater that Edward's in the movie, in that scene, I've been to concerts in that. It's a theater. It's called the Orpheum, I believe. So I've been to concerts in there, and it's a beautiful. So it's not a movie theater. It's actually like a theater that artists come and perform at, and it's such a beautiful venue. So I'm like, I've been where Edward watched the movie
Oh my God,
before
wait, that's so
committing murder.
iconic. So make sure you guys pay attention to that scene if you rewatch the movie. Megan's been there and that
I've been
eats.
there.
Wait, oh my God, no, that moment is like so hilarious. And I also think that like the next moment that I wrote down in my notes was that even after Bella has a disturbing dream before the wedding, and even after Edward's like, let me give you even more detail about the people that I've
Mhm.
killed, she still wakes up and she's like, well, still want to be a vampire.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that disturbing dream scene where she's standing above her family and friends, bloodied wedding dress? What are your thoughts about that
Yeah.
scene?
I first iconic, but second, I do think it's really important that they're showing that because we like to like hee hee and laugh about how Bella's just willing to like risk it all for everything and
Right.
for being to become a vampire, but also it's like I think like for that dream, for example, is showing that she is, whether it's subconsciously in her dreams or I think probably when she's awake as well, she's she is processing like how this is a very big decision and it isn't something that she's taking lightly, and it is really disturbing. Or like with the dream, it's like there will be parts of this future that she's choosing to walk into that will be disturbing, hopefully not as disturbing as that dream that she had, but I do think it is a nice piece that it's showing that Bella is holding weight to these decisions she's making and isn't making decisions willy nilly, if that makes sense. Like, she's
Right.
not just being like, yeah, it's fine. Um, where it's like, no, it is a really serious decision. So, yeah, but also, I think that was a really cool visual in the movie to kind of show
The severity of it,
the
honestly.
severity of it. Yes.
I this is why I love talking to the people in the Twilight community because I've never thought about the scene like that. Like it is so easy to just be like, well, but theoretically that is showing that she's considering the weight of it. Even though
Hmm.
after it's done, she still's like, well, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Hmm.
It shows that subconsciously, like she is giving it some thought. Because it is so easy to just be like, ah, Bella's so naive. Like she's just jumping into this without
She's just
thinking
like,
about it. Right. But no, like that is such a great take. I really, really love that take because it was intense. I mean, dad's there, friends are there.
mhm.
The way that Edward just looks up at her and like, and I also wonder, like in that scene, was it supposed to be, do you think that Bella was the one that also killed her family and friends, or was it just Edward and she was just there? I always think about that.
It could be both because
Yeah.
it's also like everybody's been telling her that as soon as she becomes, and she talks about this too in the movie, it's like everyone just tells her that as soon as she becomes a vampire, she's just going to be this bloodthirsty monster. And I
Right.
think it's like also, this is the future that she wants, but also she's probably pondering like, am I going to lose myself in who I am to, and like literally losing her humanity to become a vampire, but also so I think it could be that it's both of them and not just Edward in that scene of it's like if she becomes a vampire there is a risk that she could hurt or kill the people who mean most to her, and
Right.
that's terrifying.
And I think that I just love that about Breaking Dawn Part One because like the entire first half of the movie, like you genuinely do feel that stress of it all and that anxiety, and she does such a good job of portraying that. because not only is she thinking about the humanity of it all, but then it's like, the wedding, even if you know for sure this is the love of your life down,
Hmm.
you're still being married is scary. Having the
Yeah.
the wedding ceremony is still scary. Like even with my boyfriend, like the idea of us eventually getting married is like a little bit scary. And it's like, even though
Hmm.
you can know 100% sure that this is your person, it's still a big life change. So I
Yes.
think them putting the weight on that is so special. And then my next note that I had after that, the next morning, Bella's dress is timeless. Alice did
Oh,
such a
it's
good job with the wedding. The dress feels so Bella, and the lace detail, the buttons down the back. What are your thoughts about the dress? What are your thoughts about the wedding? This is the scene that we had been waiting for.
I know. I love the dress is so perfect, and I love there was a recent interview that came out of Kristen Stewart talking
I
about
watched
how she
that.
yes that she loves the dress and too, and I'm like, oh yay, I'm happy that she also loved the dress.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I just feel like it's so Bella. I love the outdoor, like the aesthetic. I love the song she walks down to. I love the moments. The wedding is so beautiful. I think I only have two small criticisms. Ooh,
Let's get into
I'm
it. Let's
scared
get
to
into
talk
it.
about criticisms, but I and I've heard this narrative before as well, and I'm like thinking about it. It's like yeah, of for like Bella, it's like she hates being the center of attention.
Yeah.
And she gladly just hands off this wedding planning to Alice. But it does make me sad that the wedding does, and Alice did a wonderful job, but it does feel, the wedding does feel very like Alice and not very Bella. I feel like if it was Bella's wedding, there probably would have been like 15 guests. It would have been very small and very intimate, which I mean, it was a pretty small wedding and stuff, but
Yeah.
I think it would have been less extravagant. It would be like more intimate and stuff. So I, for me, I'm like, that is my dream wedding. It like is perfect. But then the small part of me is like, oh, I feel like in some ways this big elaborate fancy wedding was kind of pushed on to Bella, and she's like, I'm just going to do it to make everybody around me happy. And then that makes me feel sad for her that she
Yeah. Because it's her
didn't get to,
day.
it's her day. And I think that also it's, like Edward was the one who wanted the wedding and stuff like that, so it's also doing it for him, but I don't know how much say he had in it. Like I know in at the end of Eclipse he's like, you're just gonna let Alice do like the dress and the like everything. And even just like at the beginning when Bella's like walking in the high heels and can barely walk in them, and she's like, are you sure I have to wear these shoes, kind of thing, and Alice is like, you have to wear the shoes.
Like, girl, you
It's
could
like,
have worn a
yeah,
beautiful flat. They have
yeah, it's
some
like,
flats that are cute.
yeah. So I'm like, I always struggle a little bit with it because I'm such a romance girly, and so watching the wedding, I'm like, I love the wedding. It's like one of my favorite parts of the series. But then the the part of me who just like loves Bella and stuff, I'm just like, oh, I feel like this isn't what Bella wanted. And that makes me
Right.
sad that the day wasn't made to be her day. It was made to be everybody else's day in a lot of ways. So, anywho, that might be a hot take. um,
Yeah, but it's valid. It's completely valid because at the end of the day, like sometimes we do have to consider Bella's feelings, especially like we said, with it being her day. And I think Alice tried her best to give like the dress to be the most Bella like.
yes, she did do an excellent job with the dress.
Right. But I'm curious to see what else could have been like what other version would have been like even more Bella. But I feel
Yeah.
like they try to get their best to give it like as much simple glamour as possible.
Hmm.
And then like even just like her nerves as she's walking down with Charlie, like
Yeah.
my
And
girl
when
was
she,
shivering in that dress.
also when she was like, um, I had written down here, I'm like, something that I just love in this movie is all of the beautiful Bella and Charlie moments that we get. I love them so much. And specifically when they're about to walk down the aisle and then she says, don't let me fall. And he says, never. And I'm like,
Wait, I'm gonna sob on the
yeah,
scene because
me
this is
too.
like Like, people don't understand how deeply I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charlie is just so sweet. Charlie didn't, honestly, he was like, yeah, I want to be here, but do I want to be here? But
Yeah.
it's like, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I got to do for my girl.
Yes.
But you can feel like his heart breaking a little bit. He's like, dang, like,
Yeah.
we're at the wedding. It's getting real. Like, I barely even like Edward. So I felt
Yeah.
kind of
He's like,
bad.
I don't even like Edward. My daughter is 18. What is going on?
Right. And then Jessica being shady boots talking about, where's the baby? Like, girl.
Which, like, Jessica's pretty for real for that, but also, like, a little unhinged.
Right. Like, ain't nobody pregnant yet. Okay.
Yes,
We can't just
soon.
get married just to get married, girl.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Angela's like always going to be there to keep her in check and be like, relax.
Yes.
Like, I love that moment. And then, like, Stephanie being a
Oh,
part of
that I
the
love.
guests.
I
If you
love
guys
that
haven't seen that moment, the writer of the Twilight Saga, Stephanie, is in the wedding. She's a wedding guest. So that's always beautiful. Those little, like, gems that we get are so meaningful.
And also, like, the camera pans, and it's basically the first person that Bella sees when she gets to the aisle, other than Edward, but, like, the first person that she sees is Stephanie, and it's like Stephanie's the
Yeah.
whole reason, like, it all exists. So
Right.
it's
Like,
like,
while we're
it's
here.
so cool.
Ugh.
And then my one other criticism, and then we can talk about all the positive things, is I know, like, how nervous Bella was, but I just wish that so she, like, is walking down the aisle and she looks terrified, which understandably,
Right.
but I just wish that when she locked eyes with Edward, there would have been, like, you could have seen a change of her being like, it's okay. Except because she gets to the end of the aisle and she still looks like terrified,
Right.
which is also valid. And I know that, like, in interviews I've seen with Kristen Stewart, that she really, like, read the book. She really, like, this was a scene that she really felt had a lot of weight to it, and she really thought about her acting choices and stuff. And also, I'm like, people always want to come for Kristen Stewart. She did a great job. Maybe that's a hot
She
take
did.
too.
Like, girl, I did what I could with the material that I was given.
Yes, and also the direction that I will say that I feel like book Bella and movie Bella are very different.
Yes.
But I think she worked with Catherine Hardwicke in the first one to develop kind of
A hybrid.
Bella's movie presence, and that kind of carried it out through the movie. So I will say that book Bella and movie Bella are different, but I do think that Kristen did a really good job in the movies. So I think that she gets a lot of unnecessary hate.
I agree. And I think Kristen's performance, like, starting from Breaking Dawn and part 1 and 2, like, go exceptionally beyond expectation.
Yeah.
Like, she really, really steps up. And I think that's just because Bella changes so much. So you
Yes.
really do have to feel a different sense of direction, because just like we, humans evolve over time, like, Bella quite literally grows before our eyes, especially during these last 2 films.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, I love that so much. Love that for her. Love character development.
Yes.
And in that scene, I kind of wish that she had a more, like, peaceful, like, when she saw Edward, but then also I understand the nerves at the same time. So that's
But
my
then when she gets that kiss,
yeah.
sweetie, she
Yeah,
said,
then
oh, that
then
was
she's
the
fine.
lock-in
Yes.
moment that we needed. We wish, like, I do get your point that we wish it would have started from eyes locked on Edward down the aisle, but it doesn't happen until they kiss. And then that surround camera pan moment where everyone's gone.
Yeah.
I eat that up,
Me
girl.
too. I'm like, I'm here for this. So yes, but everything else I love. So those might be 2 nitpicky things, and other people might have totally different opinions, and that's totally valid too. That's just my 2. If I could change something about the movie, those would be my two things.
No, I totally agree with you. I also think that when we have the moment where after the wedding is over, we get the speeches, we get the dances, which we love that little moment where we have Alice and Jasper dancing. First of all, get into Alice's dress. I feel like we could talk about so much
it's
detail
so
from the
good.
wedding alone.
Yes.
But Alice looks so good. I love it. Edward's tux.
Everyone looks so
Perfection.
good.
Literally, Carlisle, Esme, the whole gang looks
The whole
great.
family. And I just think, like, for those who have read Midnight Sun, where you really get to deep dive more into like Carlisle and Edward's relationship,
Yeah.
that changes it for me with Breaking Dawn, or all of them, but especially like the wedding and stuff is like Carlisle spent like 100 years with depressed Edward, thinking that's like, you know, not that he'd be, well, maybe they thought he was going to be alone forever, but just
Right.
seeing, like, as a parent figure, getting to see, like, how happy his son is. And so I'm just like, oh, that's just such a special day for all of them. So it,
Yeah. I
and
really love that.
also the speeches. Also, I will say that I only watch the extended edition now of Breaking Dawn Part 1. So
Oh,
I don't
yes.
remember what is in the original movie and what's in the extended one because I've watched the extended one so many times. Does the original movie have all of the speeches, or did they cut it down?
I'm not 100% sure. The one that I just watched was extended too.
Okay.
I
We will
watched a
just
few weeks ago.
I'm like, if people are listening to a Twilight podcast, we'll assume that they have watched the extended edition,
Right.
maybe. But the speeches are so in character. And I know everyone talks about online the secondhand embarrassment of when Renee is like, fall
Go
to
to
sleep,
sleep,
my
my
love. And
love.
everyone's like,
I was literally going to say that. If you hadn't brought it up, I was going to bring it up. I was going to sing the song because I don't know what it is about that moment that is so pivotal for me. But go to sleep, my love.
it just shows Renee's character.
Right. She's like, I don't give a darn if people are around here. This is my daughter,
This
and
is my
Renee is just being
moment.
Renee. Like, she's going to say what she wants to say. And I really think that at the end of the day, it is kind of cringe, but it's also really sweet.
It's also really sweet. Yeah.
And then it's like Emmett, I feel like he's the
He's like,
true,
haha.
and the way everyone was crickets. They're like, what do you mean she's not going to be getting any sleep? Like, that was
So
so
funny.
insider joke.
And then it pans over to Charlie like sipping on his drink.
Right. Oh my God. No. Like, it's so funny. Everyone's speeches were so
And
great.
Jessica, it's like, oh,
And he was all
Bella's
about
winning.
Bella.
Everything's all about Bella.
Like, girl. Oh, and that's why I was like,
I love it. It's so good. Everybody is so in character in that scene. And then we get Edward's speech, which is like I think one of the best quotes in the whole
yes.
series. The no time spent with you will be long enough, or what is it?
I forget what he says.
No measure of time with you will be long enough, but let's start with forever.
Forever. Yes.
And it's like, everyone's like, oh, that's nice, but it's like, he means forever.
Right. I think the people that were quite literal was him and Emmett in their speeches.
Yeah.
That was so funny. And then like Charlie's speech being like, I know how to hunt people to the end of the earth.
Yeah.
Like, did you give a threat?
Also in character. Everyone is so on it. Like,
Yes, I love it. And then it's like the wedding itself is so beautiful, but then of course we have that moment where it's like party pooper, Jacob shows up. I have a note on my phone that says, why did Jacob think it was okay to grab her like that when he learns that she'll still be human during the honeymoon? Like, I forget if that part is in the book, but the way he shakes my girl, like, dang,
yeah,
relax.
I didn't like that. Because, and also it's like that moment leading up to it was so sweet between them that I'm like, oh, why did it have to go that
I know,
direction?
like the way he picked her up and twirled her around, and you could just tell, like, the acting. I'm sorry, like you said, we love Kristen Down, and I felt like she just pulled at my heartstrings on that scene because you can just see how happy Bella is that Jacob showed up at least.
Yeah.
Like, he's looking all ragged because he's been walking around eating
Looking rough.
non-human food. He's been walking around as a wolf for the past few months because he's sad about them getting married.
Sad.
Shows up, twirls her around. They have a cute little dance, and she's like, I'm just happy you're here.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he has to go and get mad. Like, ugh. Don't like that moment. But I think that after that, okay, they move on. Jacob's upset that she's going to be human during the honeymoon. But I also put that one thing that's sad to me is that Bella gets sad about being a vampire and how she'll never get to see her family again when they leave for the honeymoon.
Hmm.
Oh, that scene always just gets me because it's like, girl, you don't have to be a vampire, but at the same time, I do understand your choice. But as they're walking away, driving away in the limo, and you see everybody, it's just like,
Hmm.
oh, like, do you feel that moment too, where it's like, it's kind of sad.
It's definitely like kind of like we were saying before, where it's really showing Bella like what she's going to lose and miss out on. It's almost like
Yeah.
leaving at or leaving the wedding and leaving saying goodbye to everyone. I almost kind of feel like that parallel from the first movie when they're having to leave Forks and it drives past the diner and she sees all of her friends walking out,
Right. Oh,
and it's
great
kind of like
example.
it's like she's seeing like the normal life she could have had and that she has made this choice, and now her life is it's going there's a lot of good things about it, but there's a lot of really difficult things about it, and I feel like it's that too. And then of course it's like this emotional panning, everyone's like sad saying goodbye, and then Emmett and Rosalie are just making out.
I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about that.
And they're not even drunk because they're vampires. So it's not like
Right.
they can be drinking. They're just going at it.
They're drunk in love, no
Yes.
Beyonce. I love that about them. That's one thing that, like, because I'm so team Rosalie and Emmett. I just
I
love
love
how much
them.
they love each other. And I really
Hmm.
wish that the movies could have portrayed that more because they talked about how they needed to stay away from them for decades because
Yeah.
they were like going
They're
crazy for a
going at it.
while.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
it's
that's
like,
something, if I could change anything about this, well, I'm like, I shouldn't say anything. There's a lot of things that I would change about the
yeah.
series. But one thing that I really am sad is we really missed out on seeing more of the Cullens. And that's like, I remember in New Moon, even though New Moon is shot so beautifully, the soundtrack is phenomenal. Like, it's a really good movie. I'm like, oh, we don't get to see like any or barely any of the Cullens, and like the Cullens are some of my favorite characters. So even like in this one, the moments that we do have are so fun. Like Emmett and Jasper coming to Bella's window, being like before the
I
Bachelor
love that
thing, and they like pop
scene.
up in the window and they're like, "Don't worry, Bella, we'll bring him back."
And then when like
And,
Edward leaves and he jumps back down, and then they're like, ah, and they
and
like
then they're like,
tussle and have a
and
cute
they like
little
run
boy
away.
tussle, and then they just
It's so
yeet
cute.
away. I love, no, you're so right. I feel like we view the series the same so much
Yes. Yay.
because, yes, because I love those moments when we get to just see the boys being boys, you
Yes.
know?
And
Like,
also like I love when they're setting up the wedding and they're all just carrying the benches like on
and
their arms and
Rosalie,
stuff.
my girl had a,
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then they're like, which way, boss? And Alex is like, there, and like directing them around. They're all just like, a classic family setting up for the wedding, but they're all jacked.
right. I
Yes.
love
So
that.
I love the Cullen. So and then when they leave the wedding, we also have the her goodbye with Charlie and stuff. And it's just all those little Charlie moments are so lovely and so special. And it's yeah, and heartbreaking at the same time.
It is, but then it's like once we take off, the vibes turn up because like the area that they go to, was it Rio or something like that? Was it
Yes.
again? Right. When they go to Rio, it's like we've never seen Bella and Edward in a like area like this before. So it's such a
We've
big
only seen them in like
contrast.
Forks in Arizona.
Yeah. So it was kind of fun, like seeing them weaver through the people, bob and weave. And it's like, the energy's there, the music's there, people are having fun. It was so fascinating. And I really love that Edward is able to show her different things, show her different parts of the world. And then they go to Isle Esme, and that's when it gets cracking.
Yeah.
I love every single thing about their arrival. Bella like brushing her teeth, getting nervous.
So real.
Right. No, that is truly like such a girl relatable moment.
Yes.
Like you're just like, okay, well, don't know what's gonna happen tonight, but I'm scared. And then the fact that she
Yeah.
was like looking through her clothes and being like, Alice, like there's only lingerie in the
I love it.
suitcase. I was like, no, but it's like Bella ate though. Like when she wore that
Yes.
lingerie, I was like,
Oh, love
wait.
it. And and everyone talks about it too. Like honeymoon Edward is just a different
Yes.
Edward, and like the vibes are immaculate, and like, and also I feel like in Breaking Dawn Part 1 we finally see like a happier version of Edward. Like
Yeah.
he's always been like, and especially in the first one he's so chaotic. I think that's also a combination of like the indie vibes and then Rob being like he has to be played this way and stuff,
Right.
that and
Right.
we love it. But also I feel like Breaking Dawn, both of the movies you kind of see a more mature Edward. And yeah, Honeymoon Edward, we love. Oh,
We
and
do.
Bella. Honeymoon Bella and Edward, we love. Chef's kiss.
I know, like it is so sweet, and I really do enjoy it. I think another funny part that I put down in my notes was after Edward breaks the headboard, and then the next scene comes when Bella wakes up the next morning after, and the feathers from the pillow is laying
Oh,
around.
iconic.
My boyfriend watched it with me, and he was like, "What the heck did he do? Eat some birds?" And I thought that was so funny.
That's so funny.
That's exactly why I wanted to watch that with my boyfriend, because I was like, what? What is that? That is a crazy thing to say. That Edward ate some birds. I was like, no,
So
the
good.
feathers from the pillows.
He's like, oh.
But like, kudos to Edward. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
He did what needed to be done. Yes, the
Yeah.
bedroom was destroyed to smithereens, but we love it. And I also like don't
But she
understand.
didn't die.
Right. And that's what kills me is like every single time we have a great moment and we're like, okay, we're going in the right step in the right direction. Edward did well. He needs to give himself a pat on the back that he enjoyed himself, but also didn't tear her to shreds.
Yeah.
He goes and ruins the moment in
I
the very
know.
next scene. Darn you. Bella's in there having flashbacks,
Yeah.
enjoying her morning after, and he comes in, he's like, what's the damage? What a
Like, get it together, Edward.
Right. Like, talk about a mood killer. Bella didn't
Yeah.
even notice the bruises on her body. She said, what bruises? She didn't feel any pain. And I know those had to hurt low key. She probably felt it later that day.
Yeah. once the glow had worn off.
Right. Once the morning glow wore off, she was probably hurting. Get my girl some ibuprofen because, jeez. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
But I'm like, I can understand how if you accidentally hurt your partner, like feeling
Right.
bad and not wanting to like risk that happening again. But also it's like if she's like happy and good to go and stuff and you're just like, meh, no, I'm not gonna do it again. Like I don't love
Right.
that.
And that's what makes me that it is one thing that I have, bone to pick that I have with Edward, because it's just like I understand, dude, that you're very frustrated that you can't read minds. When I was editing this, I realized that I meant to say that he can't read Bella's mind. He's frustrated that he can't read Bella's mind. But at the same time, Bella hasn't shown you at any point that she's not going to be honest with you. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes his inner self-sabotage always takes over because it's like she's quite literally telling you, that was great. You did well. I loved it. I enjoyed every single second of our first night together as Mr. and Mrs. Why can't you get that through your head? And he still has that inner sabotage. And to a certain extent, I do understand. But it's like, at what point are you going to actually listen to her? And that's when it kind of feels unfair, you know?
Yeah. And it's like he's withholding from her even though she's consenting. And so and it's just like and then it's like she shouldn't have to like the scene where I don't remember if it's in just the extended or if it's in the original as well, but when she basically has to like beg him and she's like on the verge of tears and so I'm just like she shouldn't have
when she
to
wakes up
do
from that happy dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
that's such a like
her sobbing
heartbreaking
over.
scene. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like that is a human experience. And it's like for him to like want to keep depriving her of it, it's like, boy, you said you wanted her to be human. It doesn't get more human than this. So what do you mean? Yeah, like it is pretty messed up. But I also loved like being able to see them like walking around in the waterfall, swimming together, enjoying their time together, but I also feel like it's
Playing
also
chess.
Edward stalling. Yeah, the chess.
Yes.
But he's
But
also
the
stalling.
frustration of him stalling. Yeah.
It's like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Like every night her going to bed and being like, hello, your wife's here.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And then it just kind of like kills the mood of the honeymoon too. Like
Right.
it just is like, yeah, Edward, he gets to in his head, he definitely needs therapy.
He does. Like maybe you should have just
As a
called
therapy
Carlisle.
girly, he needs therapy.
Because if anybody can advocate, we can advocate, okay? And
Yes.
I think he really needs to call Carlisle up or something, maybe mid-trip, to be like, hey, I'm feeling worried about this. Can you help me feel better? I mean, something.
Or talk through it.
Right, like lean on your parents, call, not even Carlisle, maybe Esme if you needed, a mother's touch or something like that to help you feel a little bit better. I know it's kind of an awkward conversation to have, but it's important to Bella. So, like, as a new husband going into this new role, like, you want to make her happy. So why couldn't we have talked about this more? I don't know. We could talk about that all day because, like, the sabotage is insanity. But of course, like, during this moment, it gets crazy because then after they have their fun, of course, Bella then turns up and she looks 9 months pregnant in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Chaos gets crazy fast. And the fact that she called Rosalie and knew that Rosalie was going to protect that baby with her life.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
I know that a lot of people will criticize and be like, oh, Rosalie only cared about Bella because she wanted the baby, or like she wouldn't have cared if Bella died, which maybe that's true.
Yeah.
But I also love that we get this almost like redemption between Rosalie and Bella, that there's always been this like weird tension and that they kind of squash that, and that Rosalie, I love that it's like Rosalie who's the unexpected like hero of the story, like swoops in and we get to see a really positive version of Rosalie, because I know that that's something that's been talked about a lot in the series, is that Rosalie is often really villainized and
unfairly.
So I do love that we get to see a softer side of Rosalie and a really like mothering, comforting, loving side of Rosalie, with her sass, of course, because she's a queen.
She is.
But yes, I love seeing her be protective of Bella and the baby and caring for them.
Yeah.
Especially and like standing up to her brother too and being like, nah.
Right? Or even like when Jacob comes to see her for the first time, when she comes back from vacation, she looks, like I said, 9 months pregnant in 2 weeks. And at this point, she's already looking like she could die at any moment. And then Rosalie is standing in front of Bella. Jacob walks in and he's like immediately like, huh? Like, why is she here? That was such a funny moment to me because it's like even Jacob is confused.
Yeah,
and
he's like, since when were you and Blondie BFFs?
Right. Like, that is so interesting. Like, seeing Jacob's confusion, like, took me out. Mm-hmm. And Rosalie's just like, okay. And then Bella's like, it's fine. Like, no, it's being bodyguard for real. Like, she's not
but
stepping.
We love it.
Right. Like, she's not stepping until Bella tells her to step. And then I think, like, another sweet moment that I really enjoy from this whole pregnancy, well, it's not really sweet, is like when like her and Edward get into their fight, their first like post-marriage fight, because we all know that, like, if you've seen the movie, like, Edward is not really happy about the pregnancy only because he's scared that it's going to hurt Bella. So obviously he wants to choose her over the unborn. And on top of that, like, vampires in general don't know too much about children that are born vampires rather than turned vampires once they're already children.
They're searching it on Yahoo or whatever. It wasn't even Google.
So, like, everybody is scared because this is something that's, like, not common. But so I understand why Edward is so fearful, but at the same time, he realizes that he hasn't really been fair and trying to communicate and see Bella's side of things. And I think that that's kind of a sweeter moment where he's just like, you know what? I'm sorry. Like, once he finally is able to hear the baby's thoughts. And then they're like, well, they say, like, the first year of marriage is the hardest. And it's like, babes, it's been 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks.
Like, you want to talk about one of the hardest things to go through in marriage in the first 2 weeks? Oh my
Having
God.
a terrifying pregnancy with this monster baby thing.
Really, literally. And it was like really scary when like Carlisle was like taking the moment to be like, well, baby's breaking your ribs. All of these things are going on, and Edward is like petrified. Like, you
Hmm.
really feel the severity of the moment there where you're just like, yikes, like this does seem kind of scary. The unknown. And then the fact, like you said, that they just Google it.
Or they're like, I love that all these vampires that have multiple degrees and doctorates and masters and stuff are like not even Googling. It's they use I think like Bing or Yahoo or something.
Yeah.
They're like searching, they're like vampire baby. And then Edward gets mad, is like and like walks away from the computer.
What's funny to me is that even Robert Pattinson himself has talked about how ridiculous that moment is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what? And I love that, like, at least somebody does something about it and goes boots on the ground, real world research in Breaking Dawn Part 2. Because
Mhm.
we know that eventually Alice finds evidence of another child that's like their child.
Yes.
But up until that point, no one's really actually doing anything about it. So
Hmm.
it's like, girl, maybe we should have done that in Breaking Dawn Part 1. And this would have saved us all of this,
All the
unknown, like,
chaos that
curiosity.
ensues.
Right. Like, maybe if Alice would have left then, it was like, you know what? I'll be back. Let me go try to
Yeah.
go somewhere and figure this out. Right.
But I love
Like,
that she like leaves the hints behind for
yeah.
is that in part two?
Yeah, that's in Part 2.
Yes, that's part two. Okay. Getting ahead of
Yeah.
myself. Yes.
Yeah, but no, like, so that makes me feel a little bit better when you watch Breaking Dawn Part 1, because then you know that that's going to come in
Yes.
Part 2. But no, that's like really interesting. And I think that the pregnancy literally just goes by in the blink of an eye. Then you have the moment where I wrote down that I love when Jacob steps up and realizes, I'm the son of the chief. Oh my God, I'm the grandson. He steps
Yes.
up into his own, creates a separate pack. What are your thoughts on Jacob's little pack with Seth and Leah?
I love Seth with my whole heart.
He's
I
such a
also,
sweetie.
yes. And also, I am team Leah and Jacob. I would have loved to see a Leah and Jacob romance
Same.
storyline because I feel like both of them have got the short end of the stick in life. I think it would have been an excellent enemies to lovers because they hate each other.
Right.
I think that that would have been awesome. So it's like, but then in this, when the pack with like Leah and Seth and Jacob, you almost get a glimpse of like, oh, what could have been, but Stephanie did not go down that route, unfortunately.
Right. And then you have the
Um,
moment where, like, Esther comes out and she gives them
the
sandwiches as they're like
sandwiches.
on guard. And then, like, of course, Leo's just grumpy and like doesn't take the sandwich. And I'm like, take the sandwich. Take the sandwich. Dang. Why do you gotta
But
be
also, I understand her frustration too. But I was like,
right?
Esme's a sweetie though, so I feel bad for Esme. But then I also am like, Leah is going through it, so I understand where she's coming
Right.
from
But it's
too.
like Esme
That she's
used the kitchen that they don't even use normally.
yeah to make
Went to the store,
sandwiches.
bought bread.
Can you imagine? She's at the store. She's like, "What do people eat?"
I mean, she very well could have like went and bought the sandwiches, I guess, but like I just thought it was like really sweet. And then
Yeah.
also, I think the biggest topic that we need to discuss here is what the frick is EJ?
This is my favorite topic. I didn't know you were gonna say that.
EJ is crazy, babes. For those who haven't watched, when Bella is pregnant, she's like 3 seconds away from giving birth. They're like, what is the baby name's gonna be? This girl says, if it's a boy, EJ for Edward Jacob. What the heck?
That is a crime. Like that, other than the whole imprinting situation,
Right.
other than that, I do think that EJ is like one of the worst things to happen in the series. Um, I was gonna say besides the racism, but
Right.
that's a different topic. But EJ, I'm like, you do not name your child after your husband and then the guy you turned down who's been pining after you. And she's like, oh, but he's
Right.
my best friend. And I'm like, it's still weird.
It
Like, it's still,
is.
you can't, after the tent scene in Eclipse, you can't name your child after the two of them.
Oh my. And it's like the fact that both like Jacob and Edward just stood there and they're just
They're both kind
like,
of like,
oh.
oh.
Ugh.
It's so, I'm like, thank goodness it was a girl.
Dude, I
But
know. And I know a lot of
that
people talk
was,
bad about
yeah.
Renesmee, but like I didn't realize until I got further into the fandom that everyone hated the name
Yeah, me too.
and they
I
butchered.
thought it was great compared to EJ.
Same. Same. And now that I realize that people are like calling her like all like butchering Renesmee's name all the time, I thought it was pretty.
Yeah, I do still laugh at all of the Renesmee name videos though.
Right.
Those do give me a chuckle, but I do think that like would I use that name? No. Do I think it's the worst name out there? No, I think it's
No.
cute. It's better than
Right.
EJ.
Uh, exactly. So if you want to talk about like what could have been, it is miles and miles better than what we possibly could have had. I can't
Yes.
even imagine if it would have been a boy. Jeez Louise. But I think that Renesmee is actually kind of a cute name.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why the fandom hates it so much. But okay. Like hot
Some
take
of
here.
um I love when people call her regurgitate.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I'm like, I don't hate the name Renesmee. It's cute. Like I agree. I think it's cute. But I do get a hee hee laugh out of the jokes surrounding it as well.
Because regurgitate is so mean.
And I'm like, poor Mackenzie Foy. I hope that she doesn't see all the weird things we call Renesmee.
Right. And then it's like at the same time, it's like, dang, at the end of the day, we are just talking about a fictional child here.
Yeah.
It's just a kid. What did she ever do to you guys? Regurgitate?
But
Like,
it's so funny.
oh, I know. Like, really, it is hilarious, all the combinations that people come up with. But I was like, okay, don't think it's that bad. And then, of course, I think that the biggest moment of them all is when Edward delivers his daughter by biting her out of his wife's stomach. This scene, every single time to this day, as an anxiety girly, still strikes something in my core that is still like kind of hard for me to watch. I know it's fictional, but at the same time, it gives me so much anxiety.
Completely understandable.
I was like,
That scene, I do think though, because if you have read the book, or if viewers at home have read the book, the book is brutal. Like it's like a horror movie level R-rated graphic. So they really had to, I'm like, kudos to the creative team. Like they really needed to tone it down and be like, what can we put in a PG-13 rated film? And so I do really enjoy that we see it from Bella's perspective and that it like pans and we can only see what she can see because it keeps like it's a very creative way of keeping like the violence to a minimum, but if you've read the book, you know what is being going on. But
right.
yeah, there's that clip of Robert Pattinson being like, there has to be another way to get the baby out of this stuff.
No, because when Edward goes in and he like moves his hand and then something goes like, what was that? What was that? I'm looking
It
left, I'm
is
looking right. I'm
terrifying.
scared. I feel like I'm in the room with them and I want to leave. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm being held in the room against my will. I don't want to be here for this gruesome birth. It's scary. And then it's
It
like
is
you
scary.
got Jacob off to the side being like, what's going on? What's going on? Edward needs to focus, babes.
Yeah,
He's
I'm like,
bringing
get
life
outta
into the
here. Yeah.
world. He's not the doctor here. He's not working in labor and delivery. Are you
And also
kidding
the
me?
fact that like they had to do it without Carlisle is so terrifying too. Also the fact that Carlisle left, I was like, Carlisle, what are you doing?
Right. Like you guys held off feeding for that long that you just had to do it today. You just had to go hunt today.
And I guess it's though it's like they didn't know she was going to go into labor because it's like she reached for the cup and then broke her back, and then they just had to like do it then. But in that scene, oh, that the sound that her knees make when they squish on the ground when she falls makes me physically ill.
I'm surprised her kneecaps didn't just like tear to shreds in that
They
moment.
could have.
I'm sure.
But also, I'm like, you have all of these vampires who have lightning reflexes and they let her hit the ground.
No,
Like,
right.
that doesn't make sense. That's
But
a
then again, they
plot
are
hole.
dealing with uncharted territory.
Yeah.
But it's also so confusing about the holes in Alice's vision here.
Hmm.
Like, she didn't see the birth happening tonight?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was, did they say it was something about like
The baby.
Jacob being around and that like blurs her vision or
Right.
something?
And then she
I
also
don't
did
know.
say
I
that
don't
she
remember.
can't see the fetus, I think is what she
Yeah.
says when they first
Yeah.
introduce it. So I guess you are, yeah, that is a good point. But like, dang, I just hate that there even has to be holes in Alice's vision in the
Yeah.
first place, because it would have been so much easier if she would have like been able to see like, yep, she's gonna give birth at 8:05 p.m. Be ready.
Hmm.
That would have helped,
That
you
would
know?
have helped everybody.
Also the fact that like when Edward has to put his venom in Bella, there is so much in that vial.
There's so much going on.
How does he get that much in there? How did he collect that much venom? I'm so
Yeah.
confused. Like, and then the way
Yeah,
he
how does
brutally-
one collect venom?
Right. These are the things that keep me up at night. Do
Yeah,
you just
we should
like
look into that.
right? And
Does
it's
he
like,
just salivate into a cup and then
That's what I'm
pours it into
thinking.
the vial?
is it giving salivate into cup, or do they come out of the teeth and it drips in? Like, what? I want to understand how Carlisle collects it. Really wish we could have gone into that further. Also, of course, we have the moment. I feel like it would be kind of messed up if we didn't address it with the imprinting moment. Crazy time, because I think Jacob was fully going in there to take care of the baby
Yeah.
and in the baby's life, and then he drops to his knees, makes eye contact with the child that is freshly 5 minutes old, and imprints on the child. No matter how many times you guys keep saying it's not like that, at the end of the day, we are aware that it's inappropriate regardless.
It's yeah, every time I'm like, who greenlit this? Like, even if Stephanie was like, this is my idea, you'd think that the publishers would have been like, no.
Right.
And then like with the movie and stuff, I'm like, who, like, I can excuse a lot of things in Twilight. Should I? Maybe not. But I can excuse a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the imprinting, I'm like, it's too weird for me. I can't do it.
It is, especially when like Alice has her visions of them like growing up in the future, and like they meet Bella and Edward at like the beach, and you see that scene where Renesmee is older. In what context is the meeting? Is Jacob husband at that point, or are they still
Yeah.
giving besties till the end? I would love to know
Yeah.
more about the context of their future, relationship, because is it truly just giving? He always says, okay, you'll be, the whole point of imprinting is for you to be whatever she needs you to be. So
Mhm.
what is the context of their specific relationship? We know all of them are different. So are they going to eventually date, or are they truly just best friends until the end? Curious.
I would love that they were just friends. It just like, even if I know that like how Stephanie wrote it is that it's supposed to be that there's no romantic anything until they're adults, but it's also just like weird to be like, he held me as a baby and now he's my romantic partner, just is like, it's just too much. It's just like
It feels like child bride. She's
Yes.
already found her groom.
Yeah, it's giving grooming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
So I know that, yeah, there's a lot of discourse surrounding this, but the whole story could have been great without that element. They could have cut
Right.
that storyline.
We
Again,
didn't need
could have had
that.
a great Jacob and Leah storyline. then everybody still, I think it's like, it almost was like, oh, well, if I put Renesmee and Jacob together, then everybody gets a happy ending. And it's like, it didn't have to be that way.
And then it's just so funny when Jacob's like pleading with Bella, being like, when she is like, you interested in my daughter? And we keep jumping and bringing on part two, but then he's like, but it all makes sense. You know, you loving him, me loving you. It was messy, and it's like, babes, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
It seems like you're just saying that.
And it's one of those things too where I'm like, I just want to know the thoughts going through Taylor Lautner's head when he like read the script or read the book or whatever, because he was cast as Jacob before Breaking Dawn had come out. So I just picture him reading it and being like, huh?
Is this my future? Are you kidding me?
Is this what I'm doing with? Okay.
I'd be like, y'all are going to have to cut the check a little bit more, babes, because if I'm going to have to go do this, I need to be compensated.
And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, he doesn't get the girl that he's pining after, so then he dates her infant daughter.
Right.
Or not dates, but you know, I don't know. It's very peculiar.
Yeah, it is. I also wonder, like, why did Edward take so long to inject Bella? Because he was looking and wasting so much time staring at Renesmee after she got delivered, which at the same time I do understand because he's a new dad.
Yeah, you don't want to be like, oh, this is this changing moment in my life. Okay, pass it off,
right,
kind of thing. But also, vampires move at super speed, so of course they were slowing it down for us so we could see it. But like, if he could have had that moment in like 2 seconds, passed her off and stuff. So, and then we get the like heartbreaking moment when he thinks that she is gone, and then he's like when he's like, come back to me and stuff. I'm like, ah.
Dude, that scene is, like I said, it's chaos, it's gut-wrenching, it's hard, like it's just still hard for me to watch sometimes, like because it's just intense.
Yeah.
And seeing his heartbreaking, he's
and
like, baby,
heartbreaking.
please come back to me, like, dude. And then like when he walks out and he just looks so devastated, it's crazy.
And also, it's like, she's the only person he's ever loved in that way before.
Yeah.
And, you know, because vampires, it's like, they only really fall in love once. So it's kind of that, like, now he's going to exist, like, forever without her. And so it's like, it's so heartbreaking and stuff. And, like, this movie is like an emotional roller coaster, because you get the joys of like the honeymoon and then the frustrations of Edward and all them and all that stuff. And then it's like the heartbreak and then the confusion of the imprinting.
I know.
It's
especially when Jacob
coaster.
runs out and he's like, stop. And then the tribe realizes that they can't harm Renesmee. It's just so funny, because then like Edward's like commentating and he's like, they can't harm anyone that a wolf is imprinted on. And then Edward's standing there, a bloody shirt and all.
Yeah, with like blood on his face. He's just like, my dad wipes in there. He's probably in shock, but also I'm like, this is too casual right now.
Right. You couldn't have ran at the super speed to change your shirt really quick. Those little details always make me laugh so much. Like, he walked around with that bloody shirt like it was a badge of honor at that point. I was like, yo, this is a little crazy. I
could see why like changing his shirt wasn't a priority at that moment.
Right.
But then also it's like, how long did he keep that shirt on for?
Like, oh my god. And then the fact that they can run at super speed, but it still theoretically took Carlisle that long to get back is crazy.
Couldn't he have gotten back in like 20 minutes?
Something.
Like, how far away did he go?
Right. Understandably though, Bella's like birth did happen like in the blink of an eye, so I do get it. It's like, overall, it's just like the timing of it all is just so bad. I mean, we also completely skipped over the fact that Bella drank blood.
Oh yeah, and then she's like, it's delicious. Very good.
No wonder why my girl had like no issues in Breaking Dawn Part 1 going hunting. Yeah, she's like, I've had a taste. Yeah. Very curious to see if that was human blood though. I'm
I think it
assuming
was,
so.
oh yeah, like it was because they were like, Carlisle says if the baby is craving blood, it's not going to crave animal blood. So
Right.
and then he's like, I have a bag of O negative or like whatever blood type Bella is, and then it pans over to Jasper, and Jasper's like, excuse me. They've all been starving. He's just at a blood bank in his house.
No, that's so
And
funny.
yeah,
Like the
and
way
then
they have
like
to
pour
all
it
one
into the cup.
Oh, dude. And then the way
Yeah.
that they all have to one by one leave the room.
Yeah, they're like, okay. But then also I'm like, they all, like Jasper and stuff, has been struggling to not murder people. And it's like, you're saying, like, Carlisle could have just slipped a few bags of blood from the hospital to, like, help him get by, but in a, like, more ethical sense than just murdering someone.
That would have been great, babes.
That would have
Honestly.
been great. So that also, I'm like, interesting plot point.
If I were Jasper, I would have been like, I'm not going to let this go. We need to have a tat.
I have been struggling for years, Carlisle.
Oh my God, no. But I think that the way that they end the movie is also like so beautiful. Just because it's like you see Bella's body post birth and it is bruised, it is battered. She's got the bite marks all over from Edward's desperation and, you know, his attempt to save her. He's injected her a million times. And then as she continues to like heal, I think it's so like the artistic point that they take where
Yeah.
inside Bella is feeling everything. So they have those moments where she's like that screaming, but then it shows on
Yeah.
the outside that she's just still. It's very interesting.
Yeah, because in the book it talks about how absolutely brutal the transformation
Yeah.
is, and how, like, in the book she talks about how she didn't even want to tell, like, she didn't tell any of the other Cullens or Edward, like, how bad it was because she didn't want them to, like, feel bad about it. But it's, like, it's brutal. So I love that they do have a glimpse of, like, how
What she's
awful
feeling.
how awful it is and how painful it is.
Yeah.
It's not a fun time. Whenever the fans and stuff are like, I want to be a vampire, I'm like, no, you don't.
Right. Because that's going to be the worst 24 hours of your freaking life.
It's 3 days.
Oh, you're right.
a 3-day
It is a 3-day
process.
process. You're totally
That's
right.
brutal. After she's already gone through the birth and breaking her back and like dying,
Right.
and then 3 days of torture. I'm like, nah.
She's like, at this point,
No,
what's
thank
another
you.
thing? I guess I can take it. I'll take it like a
Just,
champ.
okay.
And like, I think from what I remember in the book, she was saying that like she couldn't even scream if she wanted to.
Yeah, she
Wasn't
was
that
in
the
like so
thing?
much pain that she was like debilitated, I
Yeah.
believe. I also need to, I'm rereading the books right now, but I'm on Eclipse, so I need to have a Breaking Dawn refresh because it's been a couple years now.
Same. I was just talking about how I'm like in the middle of finishing Midnight Sun right now too. So
Woo!
then I'm gonna circle back and reread all the rest. But it's like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I think Breaking Dawn, the book in general, is like the hardest to read just because there's so much packed in one book. So
It's
when
a
they
lot.
announced
Like
that
even,
oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Oh, both. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say when they announced that they were doing breaking into a part 1 and part 2, I'm like valid because
Valid. Yeah.
it's a roller coaster just to get through the book alone.
Yeah, it's a lot, and even like we don't want to make this podcast too long, but even just like there is so much that happens even in just like part 1 that yeah, I can't imagine putting part 1 and 2 in one movie. I'm so glad that they split them into
Yeah.
2 because it's just, and they have different vibes too. Like once Bella becomes a vampire, it's almost like a separate book. Like they probably could have split the series into a five book series.
I agree.
'Cause there's so much going on.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
There is like so much more that I feel like we could go into with once Bella does become a vampire because it's a completely different life. But yeah, so for all the people out there, if you have not
Yay.
seen Breaking Dawn Part 1, make sure you go watch it. I really had so much
It is
fun.
a ride.
Yes, it is. But I had fun talking with you about it.
Yes,
I
you
feel like we
too.
could have like spent way more time talking
talked
about
for
this.
like 4 hours.
We could.
I'm like, I feel like there's so much we miss, like it. And then also sometimes I do get confused on what's in part 1 and what's in part 2 because
Yeah.
I usually watch them like either within a few days of each other or
Me
back to
too.
back. So sometimes the timeline gets a little bit blurry, but so I'm sure that we missed a lot of stuff. Maybe people will be commenting being like, you didn't even talk about these really big parts, and we'll be like, oh shoot.
Right,
We
but
do
that's
4
exactly
parts on breaking down part 1.
right. And that's why I felt like I needed an episode per week about each movie, because trying to just talk about the entire saga in one,
Too much.
impossible to do that in one episode. So yes, again, thank you so much for joining me, and let
Thank
the people know
you.
where they can find you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be invited to join your podcast. This is my first time ever being on a podcast, and I'm so glad it's yours.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, I am on TikTok. My username is Megan's Obsessions. On Instagram, I'm just Megan Loves Twilight. Very, very straightforward. And on YouTube, I'm also Megan Loves Twilight. So on TikTok, I make more, I would say, like fun, like more like meme type videos, and also videos of my travels to Forks or like Pacific Northwest vibes. And then Instagram, it's more, I would say, the like aesthetic, Twilighty vibe pictures kind of thing. But I also share some videos and fun stuff on there too. So yeah, I'm most active on Instagram and TikTok, and then, but also YouTube. I plan to get a little bit more active on YouTube. So I'd love if people checked me out there too, but no pressure.
Yes, no pressure at all.
No
And like, if you
pressure
guys are
ever.
watching this episode, I mean, if you want to like the video on YouTube, that'd be great. If you want to subscribe
Yay.
to both of our channels, that would be awesome. If you're listening on
Yay.
Apple and Spotify, rate me that 5 stars, give me a review. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Phone calls, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, take my